If the United States ever stopped paying its debt, the global economy wouldn't crash in months. It wouldn't crash in days. It would implode in less than 48 hours. Banks would freeze. Markets would disappear. And every dollar in your wallet would go from money to paper. Welcome to the financial timeline, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Because what we call U.S. debt isn't just a number. It's the architecture of modern civilization, the invisible scaffolding behind your mortgage, your job, your savings, and the global system we all pretend is stable. To understand why a single missed payment could end the world economy, we have to go back to the moment America made its most unlikely decision. The year was 1790. The Revolution was over, but the new United States was drowning in war loans. Most nations in this situation simply defaulted. But Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton did something radical. He embraced the debt. He argued that if America borrowed money and always paid it would become the most trusted nation on earth. Trust would become the new currency. And it worked. American bonds became Europe's favorite investment. Confidence grew. A young republic gained superpower status, not through armies, but through credibility. Every major American leap forward, the railroads, industrialization, the New Deal, World War II, was powered by borrowing. Debt wasn't a weakness. It was the engine. And that engine went global in 1944 at Bretton Woods, when 44 nations tied their currencies to the U.S. dollar. The dollar was tied to gold, and the world was tied to America. Foreign countries stored dollars. Then they bought U.S. treasuries. American debt became the planet's savings account, but nothing built on faith stays stable forever. By the late 1960s, the U.S. was spending faster than its gold reserves could support. Other nations demanded gold, not dollars. The vaults began to empty. So, in 1971, President Richard Nixon made the most important financial decision of the century. He cut the dollar off from gold completely. Money became backed by only one thing: trust. And America had plenty of it. From that moment forward, the global economy ran on a new rule. The United States could borrow infinitely, as long as the world believed in its debt. Treasury bonds became the risk-free asset that underpins everything. Loans, derivatives, mortgages, pension funds, bank reserves, global trade, the debt wasn't a bill to be paid. It was infrastructure. The entire global system depends on one ritual. When old bonds expire, the U.S. issues new ones. It never pays the debt off. It rolls it over forever. As long as that continues, the illusion holds. But if the U.S. ever misses even one payment, the illusion shatters instantly. This isn't theoretical. In 1979, a tiny processing glitch delayed payments for just a few days. Interest rates spiked immediately. In 2011, a political fight over the debt ceiling caused the U.S. credit rating to be downgraded. Trillions vanished from markets, and America didn't even default. These weren't financial crises. They were psychological warnings. The global economy runs on faith. And faith cracks long before systems break. Today, U.S. debt has passed $38 trillion. Interest payments are nearing $1 trillion a year. America is borrowing money to pay interest on money it already borrowed. Foreign nations, China, Japan, Saudi Arabia, are reducing their U.S. bond holdings. Central banks are buying gold again. Countries like Brazil and India are testing systems that avoid the dollar. For the first time in 50 years, the world is asking, is the U.S. still the safest borrower? And that brings us to the terrifying part. It wouldn't look like chaos at first. It would look like a pause, a technical delay, a single missed payment. But behind the scenes, every trading desk, every algorithm, every central bank would feel the ground shift. In the first hour, banks stop lending hedge funds, stop borrowing, liquidity disappears. Treasuries are the collateral for everything. If they're not safe, nothing is safe. Stocks crash, not because companies failed, but because the foundation of valuation collapses. The panic spreads outward. Central banks dump dollars. Investors flee into gold, euros, crypto, anything. Interest rates explode upward. Mortgages and credit cards become unaffordable overnight. Within a week, government paychecks halt, Social Security stops, military salaries freeze. Within 2 weeks, the global economy enters cardiac arrest. But here's the real truth. The crisis isn't about money. It's about belief. The U.S. doesn't print dollars. It prints trust, and trust is the one currency no government can ever print enough of. Rome had its denarius. Britain had its pound. America has its debt. Currencies die when belief dies, and belief dies quietly. In spreadsheets, not streets. In interest rate spreads, not riots. In the silent decisions of central bankers hedging their risks. The next reserve currency won't replace the dollar overnight. There will simply be chaos. A world where every transaction costs more because no one agrees on what anything is worth. That's what default means. Not the end of money, the end of meaning. America isn't out of money. It's out of cooperation. The U.S. could pay its bills instantly, but political dysfunction can block that ability. Confidence doesn't care why the check bounced. Every debt ceiling fight, every downgrade, every close call chips away at the story of American reliability. Empires today don't fall with invasions. They fall with indifference. The world won't revolt against the dollar. It will quietly stop relying on it. And when that day comes, the debt that made America powerful will become its greatest weakness. The United States built its empire on a paradox. Infinite debt backed by infinite trust. For now, that trust holds. But faith depreciates when overused. If the day ever comes when the U.S. truly cannot pay, not because of money, but because of politics, it won't just default on its creditors. It will default on history, because the world doesn't run on money. It runs on trust. And trust is the one currency no nation can print. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe, because history has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.